And now, let me present the Larry O'Brien Trophy to this year's NBA champions, San Antonio Spurs.
The San Antonio Spurs could be on the brink of dominating the NBA again, and nobody's prepared for it. Everyone thought the dynasty died with Tim Duncan, but what if it's quietly being reborn right now? When Victor Wembanyama landed in San Antonio, everything changed. A 7'4" alien with guard skills, elite defense, and zero fear. He's not just living up to the hype, he's rewriting it.
Victor Wembanyama from Nanterre, France.
And the wild part, the Spurs have built the perfect system around him.
His defense, or he's not locked in.
Wembanyama!
The early numbers are unreal, the chemistry is clicking, and it feels like something big is coming. History might just be repeating itself, and the NBA has no idea what's about to hit. When the lottery balls dropped in 2023, it didn't feel like luck, it felt like destiny. The San Antonio Spurs had just won the right to draft Victor Wembanyama, and in that moment, everything changed. Scouts called him the best prospect in basketball history.
Because of one player now, the Spurs, Victor Wembanyama.
Fans called him the alien. 7'4" with an 8-foot wingspan, guard-level skills, and a calm confidence that made grown men nervous. This wasn't just another rebuild. This was the return of something the NBA hadn't seen since the Duncan era, a once-in-a-generation centerpiece. From his very first game, the hype didn't just match reality, it underrated it. Wemby didn't move like a big man, he glided like gravity didn't apply to him. One night he'd block a three-pointer, sprint coast to coast, and hit a step-back jumper in transition. Another night he'd rack up 35 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 blocks, numbers that used to belong to legends. Opposing players started admitting they'd never seen anything like it. Coaches quietly built new schemes just to keep him out of the paint. And fans? They couldn't stop watching. But what really stunned people wasn't the highlights, it was his focus. No ego, no drama, no distractions. He wasn't chasing fame, he was chasing mastery. Teammates said he practiced like someone trying to fix basketball itself. He'd rewatch every game, noting angles, timing, spacing. When asked how he stayed so calm under the spotlight, he said, "Pressure? That's for people who aren't prepared." That's when everyone realized Wemby wasn't just built differently, he thought differently. Still, San Antonio knew one truth better than anyone. No dynasty is built on one player. Tim Duncan had Popovich, Parker, and Ginobili. Wemby needed his own foundation. The perfect mix of veterans, young guns, and culture to unlock his full potential. And as the Spurs began quietly assembling that machine around him, the NBA had no idea what was about to form. Because this wasn't just the arrival of a superstar, it was the rebirth of a dynasty in disguise. While the rest of the league was busy watching Wemby highlights, the Spurs were doing what they've always done best, working in silence. They didn't chase stars or throw money at headlines. They built a system. Every move had a purpose, every player had a role, and somehow it all revolved around one goal, making Victor Wembanyama unstoppable. Greg Popovich knew how fragile a young superstar's rise can be.
Now remember the Hornets, fellas. We got to really pull it together for Game 3.
He'd seen talent burn out under pressure before, so instead of surrounding Wemby with noise, he surrounded him with structure. Devin Vassell became the steady hand, calm, efficient, and one of the league's most underrated two-way guards. Keldon Johnson brought fire and grit off the bench, while Harrison Barnes added something San Antonio had missed for years: championship DNA. These weren't just signings, they were safeguards. Then came the youth movement, the next generation designed to grow alongside Wemby. Jeremy Sochan, unpredictable and fearless, doing all the dirty work no one else wanted. Carter Bryant, a defensive menace who plays every minute like it's Game 7. And the newest sparks, Stephon Castle and Dylan Harper, two young guards with sky-high IQ and the kind of confidence you can't fake. Together they gave the Spurs something rare in today's NBA: balance. This wasn't a rebuild, it was a reload. Quiet, patient, and perfectly timed. San Antonio didn't just want to win games. They wanted to build an ecosystem where Wemby could thrive for the next decade. Every draft pick, every rotation tweak, every veteran addition was part of the blueprint. And now, as all the pieces start locking into place, you can feel it, the calm before something massive. Because when the Spurs build this carefully, history usually follows.
Defense, or he's not locked in.
Wembanyama all the way.
Just when everything seemed to be falling perfectly into place, the story took a turn no one saw coming. Midway through the 2024-25 season, Victor Wembanyama was sidelined with a blood clot issue, a terrifying moment that froze San Antonio's entire future in one headline. Fans feared the worst. Was this the start of another what could have been story? For a moment, it felt like history was playing tricks again. A generational talent, already changing the game, suddenly forced to sit and watch. The Spurs could have panicked. They could have pushed for short-term wins, or rushed him back. But they didn't. They slowed everything down, and that decision quietly changed the entire direction of the franchise. With Wemby out, the young core was thrown into the deep end. Stephon Castle had to run the offense. Dylan Harper was forced to become a creator. Jeremy Sochan and Carter Bryant carried defensive responsibilities usually meant for veterans. And what happened next surprised everyone. They grew. The ball movement improved. Chemistry started clicking. And by the time Wemby returned, the team looked sharper, faster, more connected. The injury had turned into an accidental training camp for the future. When Wembanyama finally stepped back on the court, he wasn't coming back to a struggling roster. He was stepping into a unit that had learned how to win without him. And that's when things shifted from promising young team to something else entirely.
Strong. Champagny. Held in on the
Because now San Antonio had depth, resilience, and a superstar who just survived his first major test. What looked like a setback became the spark of something much bigger, the moment the Spurs stopped rebuilding and started rising. Still, San Antonio knew one truth better than anyone. No dynasty is built on one player. Tim Duncan had Popovich, Parker, and Ginobili. Wemby needed his own foundation, the perfect mix of veterans, young guns, and culture to unlock his full potential. And as the Spurs began quietly assembling that machine around him, the NBA had no idea what was about to form. Because this wasn't just the arrival of a superstar, it was the rebirth of a dynasty in disguise. Nobody expected the Spurs to start this strong. Just a few games into the 2025-26 season, San Antonio didn't look like a rebuilding team anymore. They looked like a storm. And at the center of it all, Victor Wembanyama, rewriting the rules of basketball in real time. Through the first 3 games, he's averaging nearly 35 points, 13 rebounds, and 4 blocks a night while shooting over 55%. Those are MVP numbers, but what came next was something no one had ever seen before. Wemby just became the first player in NBA history to record 100-plus points and 15-plus blocks through a team's first 3 games. Read that again. Not Shaq, not Hakeem, not even Wilt. In his second season, this 21-year-old is already doing things the legends never did.
I think those are 4 games that we're supposed to win, you know, like if we lost them, we would have been disappointed.
But that's not all. Wemby Alien went to the gym after scoring more than 40 points in a game, according to his teammates. Yes, you heard right, he went to the gym. It's completely crazy. But it's not just the stats, it's how he's doing it. One game, he's dropping threes like a shooting guard. The next, he's swatting jumpers into the stands and finishing lobs that shouldn't even be possible. Opponents look defeated before halftime. Coaches are running out of ways to adjust. And every highlight feels like proof that Wemby isn't just evolving, he's accelerating. Meanwhile, the rest of the Spurs are matching his energy. Devin Vassell has become the silent killer, hitting clutch shots and defending the perimeter like his life depends on it. Jeremy Sochan's chaos keeps opposing offenses guessing. Dylan Harper and Stephon Castle play with the confidence of veterans, not rookies. Suddenly, everything Popovich and the front office built in silence is exploding in front of the cameras. The Spurs aren't sneaking up on anyone anymore. They're making noise. And if this is what the start looks like, imagine what happens when this team really clicks. Because this isn't just a hot streak. It feels like the beginning of something bigger, something the NBA might not be ready to handle. Every dynasty starts with a superstar, but it survives because of the others. The Spurs know that better than anyone. Duncan had Parker and Ginobili. Kawhi had his army of role players. And now Wemby has his own rising generation one that might be even more dangerous than people realize. The first name everyone's whispering about is Stephon Castle. At just 20, he already plays defense like a 10-year vet.
And he's just gonna Euro step the defense. And we talked about.
He reads passing lanes like he's watching the game in slow motion. And when he locks in on a guard, it's over. But what really turns heads is how composed he looks next to Wemby, as if he's already figured out how to sync with him perfectly. The two move in tandem, like chess pieces planned 5 moves ahead. It's terrifying. Then there's Dylan Harper, the definition of a modern guard, strong, fearless, and built for big moments. He doesn't flinch against pressure. When the offense stalls, he takes over. His chemistry with Castle is starting to look like a younger, hungrier version of Tony and Manu. Add Jeremy Sochan, the ultimate disruptor, switching on anyone, diving for loose balls, doing all the little things that don't show up on highlight reels but win games, and you've got a trio that bleeds Spurs DNA. And that's the secret. This team isn't built around one superstar doing everything. It's a collective young players learning, failing, and then fixing it fast. While other franchises chase short-term wins, San Antonio is building a culture that grows in real time. Every game feels like a step forward, every mistake a lesson. Wemby might be the centerpiece, but it's these young killers who make the whole thing work. The scary part, they're not even close to their ceiling. Give this group another year or two, and the rest of the league won't just be trying to beat the Spurs. They'll be trying to survive them. And yet, as perfect as the balance looks, there's one wild card left. A move that could turn this quiet resurgence into an outright takeover. Every great rise hits a moment where potential meets opportunity. That one move that turns a promising story into a full-blown dynasty. For the Spurs, that moment might be coming faster than anyone thought. Because while this roster already looks built to win, there's one missing piece that could take them from contenders to champions. And the whispers around the league keep pointing to the same name, Lauri Markkanen. Think about it, a 7-foot sniper who spaces the floor, rebounds, defends, and doesn't need the ball to shine. He's the dream front court partner for Wemby, two 7-footers who can protect the rim, stretch the defense, and switch on almost anyone. Picture it, Markkanen spotting up on the perimeter while Wemby rolls to the rim. How do you guard that? You don't. You just pray. Of course, Utah isn't giving him away. The Jazz would want picks, prospects, maybe even a rotation player or two. But here's where it gets interesting. San Antonio actually can afford that. They've got cap space, assets, and depth to spare. Trading a couple of veterans or mid-round picks wouldn't gut their future, it would accelerate it. And Popovich knows timing. When your superstar is ascending this fast, you don't wait 5 years. You go all in. Some call it risky, but dynasties aren't built on caution. They're built on guts. Duncan had Robinson. Curry had Durant. LeBron had Wade. Maybe Wemby's version is Markkanen, the quiet killer who completes the puzzle. Because if the Spurs make that move, we're not talking about a fun young team anymore. We're talking about the scariest front court the NBA has seen in decades. And for the first time since the Duncan era, one thought is spreading across the league. The Spurs are back. And this time, they might not give the throne back. Finally, the signs couldn't be clearer. Wemby's breaking records, the young core is maturing fast, and the Spurs system looks built to last. What was supposed to be a slow rebuild is turning into the NBA's next power shift, and everyone's starting to feel it. This isn't hype anymore, it's history in motion. The only question left is how far they'll take it. One title or a new dynasty. If you're watching this rise and think the league isn't ready for what's coming, hit that like button, subscribe, and tell me below how many rings does Wemby bring to San Antonio. Because this isn't a comeback story, it's a warning.